Hello and welcome back to VHawks podcast, where I've just caught up to Matt's level of depression. Yay!
Welcome to the test,
Honestly,
buddy.
huh?
Come take a seat.
Welcome. Yeah, yeah, we were in the playoffs for, a bit, and that didn't last. Lasted 4 quarters of football. Unlike our team,
That was about
our
15 minutes.
team lasted until halfway through the third quarter, and then KOC just gave up. Honestly. Like still calling run plays, not doing anything to advance the ball unless it's a long developing play, which proves that he's just going to get sacked. There was no game plan. You put out a blueprint against Detroit week 18 again, and they beat you, and you don't prepare for what beats you. And it just, as an offensive play caller and the head coach, you just get your ass kicked week 18 and you don't game plan so that doesn't happen again, or at least it doesn't happen as bad. There's so many Vikings fans that love Kevin O'Connell and that think that he's great. And I get it. The culture, amazing. The amount of players that love playing for him, it's amazing. And his ability to coach quarterbacks to their best play, because let's be honest, Sam Darnold before this was never looked at as a quarterback who would ever get a bigger deal than like what he's been getting as a backup quarterback for like 1 year, $10 million. Now he's got a chance to go get a couple years, probably like 20 or 30 now after those two losses a year, instead of like a 4 year, $50 million deal that he was probably at if he had kept this level of play up and won a playoff game. Um, but everything else, Kevin O'Connell is just not good. Like, it's not a hot take. He's doing too much. He's trying to call the game. He's trying to do everything with the offense. He's trying to handle the clock and the challenging. He just does too much. There's no clock management with him. There's no adjustments in the second half. He's too nice because he won't ever use power football, and he doesn't bench players when they're not doing well. Because let's be honest, it couldn't get much worse even during the Lions game or after halftime against LA. You should have put in Mullins. Last year, Mullins had so many games throwing for 400 plus yards, multiple touchdowns, and sure, he threw just about as many picks as he did touchdowns or the same line every single game. But at least the dude took the shots and was able to put points on the board. At that point, the defense started to settle in the second half. We were down 24 to 9, I believe, in the second half, or 24 to 3, going into halftime. And or 20, I don't know it was something big. Our defense allowed either 3 or 6 points in the second half. So you at least give your defense a chance to stop the team if Nick Mullins throws picks. Um, because moving the ball is just the issue. You need someone who can move the ball. And sure, a pick is going to be a dumbass decision, but at least the other times he's going to advance the ball. I don't understand. You're trying to win the game. It's the playoffs. You win or you go home. And when he just kept running the ball in the third quarter, and didn't use any type of clock management. There were so many times where it would just we just go right down to 5 seconds left on the play clock before we'd snap the ball. There was no sense of urgency. It seemed like we never hit 2 minute drill, in the entire game. We didn't run a play before the third quarter when we easily could have, like before it ended rather. Like there's just so much of this team shooting itself in the foot all the time, and it always happens on national television or in must-win games, and I am just sick and tired of it. Like, I thought there was going to be a playoff victory and then we'd get bounced by the Eagles. And I was okay with that outcome, had that been the case, because at least we get a playoff win in a rebuilding year. And the bottom line is, like, eventually I will feel okay about this because we were never going to win the Super Bowl. And this was a phenomenal year for how everything looked in the offseason and it being a rebuilding year. Like 14 wins is nothing to sneeze at. But when your coach and your quarterback don't show up in two must-win games back to back and they don't game plan or adjust to anything that the defense does, it's so infuriating. I just I don't understand. And I even was talking to Matt earlier after the game last night, and I was infuriated with the refs. I still am because they called it a fumble return for a touchdown for Blake Cashman, and that was what they initially ruled it. It was a 50-50 call, which Matt, to your credit, you also acknowledged. Every single time we have the refs call something on the field, they usually stick. That's like 99% of the time that they stick with what's called if it's a 50-50. And they took it away. And then they there was another play late in the game where we actually were moving the ball down the field. Someone does a face mask on one of the Rams players, and it wasn't called, but they were reviewing something else in the play. I think they were reviewing the spot of the ball, and they decide to throw a flag during the review. Where was that during the extensive review week 8 for the extreme face mask on Darnold?
They didn't add it till after the one with Cincy.
It's it's just so dumb. Like if that's true and they added it later in the season,
That
then
they
that's
did
good.
because
But
the issue continued on. I forgot which games it was against Cincy, but it was after the Cincy game that they allowed it to be something that could be reviewable by upstairs.
which Cincy game? Do you remember like how?
Mm, Keep talking, I'll try to find it.
Okay. But either way, it's just dumb. Like the week 8 call was just that was insane. That one they didn't see it, or they honestly probably just bet money against Minnesota is the most likely reason. Um, but that they can't throw a penalty on it, and now they decide they can, and it's another turning point. But the main thing was just the momentum. This would have been a 10-10 game had they kept the call on the field. And yes, do we probably still lose? Sure, but you don't know what happens. It's a tie game instead of being down 7 points, and you may not let up all the points that you do, and your offense may gain confidence because you're not just watching the defense give up the points because you can't stay on the field. Um, and I just it's so infuriating to see the inconsistency with the refs. If they keep this up, that's good as long as they do it for every game. But it just seems like everything went against Minnesota. And I've talked to you before that the Vikings always face two teams every game. And I'm tired of it. It has to stop eventually. There needs to be just a few games where it's just let the teams play. Let them play. If there's a penalty that's obvious, call the penalty and just let the teams like honestly, don't favor one team or the other. I'm tired of it. But the main thing is the Rams played a good game, but did they play as good as week 8? No. Could we have beaten them if Kevin O'Connell adjusted and put Nick Mullins in? I believe so. Could
Mm,
they have won the game if Darnold played better? Absolutely. Like I said, we only allowed 6 points. There was either 3 or 6 points in the second half. Our defense stood tall. If our offense is able to put up some touchdowns, we win this game. I mean, obviously, because you score points, right?
it was
Stating the obvious
24
here.
to 3 at half.
24-3. So our defense allowed 3 points in the second half.
So
Three.
also the question is, if you started scoring points, would they have started putting a bit more on the gas?
I mean, I don't know, but our defense was standing tall regardless, and they still had a mix of the pass and the run in the second half, and we were standing tall and stopping them. So,
I'm just saying
well,
it's
see, that's the thing.
easy.
Brian Flores makes adjustments, just like week 8. Puka went off for like 102 yards in the first half, and then we shut him down. He had like one catch for 10 yards in the second half. After that, our defense makes adjustments. Our offense doesn't, and like, seriously, I believe if Nick Mullins played the game, this is either a one score game, us losing, which at least you can say we went down fighting, or we win this game because Nick Mullins is a gunslinger. So it's just that there was no fight in this team in the second half. And Darnold just, I feel bad for Sam Darnold because he had potential to be such a great player. The Jets ruined him. The Panthers probably added to that. Started to get better in San Francisco and obviously did well here, but he just cost himself probably $30 million a year because of his last 2 weeks. One touchdown in 8 quarters of football. Unacceptable. And it's not the type of thing that teams besides the Raiders or the Giants are going to actually pay for. So I feel bad for him. As far as I'm concerned, this is JJ McCarthy's team. Kevin O'Connell is going to probably get extended anyway because he got 13 wins 2022 and 14 wins this season. Um, I personally don't think they mean anything if you can't at least win one playoff game, but that's just this man's opinion. Um, Overall, I'm disappointed with my team. I thought our defense did well enough to win this game. Our offense just didn't show up, and our coach did not show up. And I never thought that it'd be like the coach not showing up versus the team not showing. It's just honestly, I would rather have Mike Zimmer back, the current defensive coordinator of the Cowboys. That's how bad I believe the coaching is here. Because at least Zimmer
You're
let
still
the
on an
offensive
emotional
coordinator,
high.
huh?
You are still on an emotional high. It's not been 24 hours. You're on an emotional high.
Yeah.
Give it a week,
Yeah,
you're not going to be feeling that way because the Dallas defense was horrific this year. Probably
that's
bottom of the
true.
league.
But they also don't have a lot of the pieces. They have Micah Parsons, but he is ass against the run. They have Bland, but that wasn't until what, week 14 or something that he was able to come back. And Diggs was injured again, I believe. So it's like those who else do they have on defense besides those guys? You have an aging Eric Kendricks that you went and got in the offseason, which was your only offseason move. Like when I think about the Cowboys, there's no other great player on defense that you think of. When we had Xavier Rhodes, we still had Harrison Smith, Daniil Hunter, Everson Griffin. When we had the pieces, we made it to the NFC Championship game. Then we go spend a shit ton of money on Kirk Cousins, and we only make one playoff appearance, a wild card win in that appearance, and then we um get bounced. Every other year we lose. But now we have a rookie quarterback. Now we don't have to spend all the money for one guy to win regular season games, aka now Darnold, but it was Cousins at the time. Now we can invest in the defense. Zimmer can go pick who he wants. Kevin Stefanski got the job for the Browns for a reason. He was a great offensive play caller, and Zimmer let him do what he wanted. Zimmer cared about the defense. The defense got bad after 2017 because all the money went to Cousins and we couldn't re-sign people and or go out and get big names. That was the big mistake. We can't make that mistake again. It's why I've been so adamant that Brian Flores should be promoted to our head coach or at least the highest paid assistant coach to stay in a good situation. Um, and that's not anything because I don't want him to get a head coaching job. He very much deserves it, but I want it to be here because he'll continue to build up the defense. And I think if he got an offensive coordinator, he'd let the offensive coordinator run the offense. I don't think Wes Phillips does hardly anything for this team. It's all Kevin O'Connell. And when you can't make adjustments and you're the head coach and you've got so much on your plate, you can't do it. It's mainly him trying to put too much things on himself. So honestly, I think I'll be done ranting enough. It's been a lot for you guys, and there's obviously a lot of talks we can have about this during the off season, and the start of next season. But overall, it was a great run. The roller coaster during the regular season was amazing. We only lost to two teams. It just happens that we lost to them twice, and one was in the playoffs. Um, but 14 wins in a rebuilding year, nothing to sneeze at. Sam Darnold having a career year that nobody expected was a nice, a year for Kyrie was, great regular season. It just sucks that we couldn't give him a postseason win too. But overall, I think once the emotion, like you said, gets over, I think I'll acknowledge it more of like, hey, good season, didn't do it in the playoffs, but hey, we'll get right back to the grind. It'll be JJ McCarthy's team, and we have $72 million in cap space as of right now, to go spend and hopefully beef up that offensive line and that defensive line. And we still have a number one draft pick, or not like a first round draft pick. Sorry. So, with that being said, Matt, please talk about another
No, I
team.
get to talk the rest of the time.
Yeah, that's fine. I
I
don't. Yeah,
will say one last thing for Minnesota. I do believe I warned you at the beginning of the season around like the midpoint when your game plan was basically go up by 20 and then hang on for dear life. Because you did it against the Texans. I believe you did it against the 49ers. There was a bunch of teams that you did it to.
we did it against the Packers twice. Yeah, but we beat y'all in the last seconds. And Darnold had a lot
But
of
hold on,
clutch drives.
let me finish. Let me finish. And I said turnovers is going to be the issue if it's close. What happened this week? You
It
didn't
wouldn't
have
have
the
made a
lead, so those
difference.
mistakes actually had to cost you. You didn't have the whatchamacallit, the buffer of, oh, I'm up by 20. I can actually make mistakes. And that's what Sam
Yeah,
Darnold needs. He can't be in these shootouts where I'm gunslinging and I need to match the opposing offense. We need to rush out to a lead, defense get some turnovers, and then we just hold on and fight to the final seconds and just hope we don't blow it. These final weeks, it's been he actually had to play a full 60 minutes instead of, oh, we're up 20 in the first like half of a quarter or first quarter and then just hold on. It's okay, they score, we score, we score, they score. In some games like Seattle, he did win, but then we saw versus the Rams and Lions, he just couldn't pull it out. But we can talk more about Minnesota in the offseason. Going through these other games real quick. Chargers, once again, Justin Herbert gets into a playoff game, and the Chargers look like in the first quarter, oh, the Chargers are actually doing pretty well. Houston's still asleep, like we had guessed they might have been. um, and then the rest of the game just turns to shit for the Chargers. I believe 4 picks on the day for Justin Herbert. Um,
more than he threw in the regular season.
yeah, he threw 3 picks in the regular season, threw four in one game. Um, Joe Mixon still looking pretty good. I know we talked about him a lot at the beginning of the season, and then Houston kind of fell off and was just like, "We're gonna win the division, but it's no, it's
It's not a
basically the
pretty
rest of the
sight.
division sucks." But yeah, Chargers, you got some soul searching to do because this ain't it. You need to find some more pass catchers. McConkey had a good game, but it was mostly just off of one like 80 something yard catch because the rest of the Houston defense just fell asleep on one play after sacking Herbert twice. The Houston defensive line wrecked the Chargers offensive line, and that was supposed to be a strength. And it took a couple series, especially with CJ Stroud in that offense having some turnovers and some quick punts. But those running gaps started to close. They started to get Justin Herbert uncomfortable, which, as we said at the beginning of the year, like we expected, this is not a passing team. It's a we run the ball and we will pass when we need to. They cannot just pass 30 to 40 times in a game. Um, and at the end, it was just the Chargers could barely do anything other than that one long touchdown because Houston was getting pressure, and the Chargers do not have that type of offensive weaponry to score 30 points. They need it low under 20 to have a chance and could not do that at all this game. Baltimore versus Pittsburgh. Yeah, the Steelers just were outmatched in every term, quarterback, offense, defense, basically everything. Um, by the time Pittsburgh finally got points on the board in the second half, Baltimore just scored again between their two touchdowns, and it was basically over. This game was never that close. Derrick Henry, as you see, went for 186. He was pretty efficient. The Steelers defense just kind of fell on them, and their offense just doesn't have the firepower like the Chargers to be in those high scoring games. Now, it's more of a front running team where when things were going well for Pittsburgh, they could go score 30, 40 points. When they are in the fight of their lives, they can't do it. And it's part Russ at his age. It's also the other thing of you don't really have great weapons. Yes, Pickens is pretty good when it comes to outstanding catches. But regular catches, he has drop issues, also has some attitude issues. So they're gonna have to look at that this offseason. So Baltimore moves on to face Buffalo, where Buffalo um a little slow starting to the game versus Denver. Denver came out and scored quickly, and then that was it for Denver's offense for the rest of the day. Bo Nix didn't play bad, and I don't even think he did he have a pick?
I'm not sure. I want to say he had one.
But it wasn't like Herbert or
I'll
Love.
look it up.
Um, it was nothing like Herbert or Love where they just collapsed. Um, so even if he did have one pick, he played pretty well. It was just Denver did not have the firepower to match Buffalo. And once Buffalo got it rolling, there was nothing Denver could do to stop it. Did you find out about the pick yet, or do you want me to go on?
No, I'm looking it up. Go ahead and keep talking. I'll let you know.
Also, found the Bengals thing. It was week 14 that the face mask on her or on Burrow happened against
Gotcha.
Dallas.
Also, real quick, while it's still in the memory, I do agree with most of your points about Sam Darnold, but he kind of has the Russell Wilson thing where he is good in the last drive, where you need a score or where you need a put away drive so the opponent can't tie the game or win it. Um, but you're right. When he's been in situations where he's down multiple scores, he doesn't have it in him. But if you need a drive to end the game, like the clutch gene, he's had that multiple times, including against the Packers and the Bears, where you need a drive to end the game, and against the NFC West, except the Rams. So, um, yeah, I would say that's that. But yeah, you're right. You need a lead, or you need to be within one score for him.
Yeah.
So
And then Philly versus Green Bay. Green Bay was just dealing with injuries. Hurts didn't play poorly. He What I had made the whole issue of is Hurts going to be healthy. The day after we recorded, he was already back to practice, and the reports were that he was doing fine. So that issue kind of went away quickly. But honestly, Philly did not look that dominating for a team that wants to go to the Super Bowl. We'll see how they do this week against the Rams. But for an injured Green Bay team that did not play well, for this game to be only 22-10, yes, they won, but I would not say this is an impressive win to say this is the team to beat in the NFC. Still have it for the Lions, but we'll see how they do off their bye week. For the team that will be playing Philly, actually no,
that's the Rams.
it's the Rams. Sorry. Well, the team that will be playing the Lions, Washington. This game was kind of how we expected it to be, a close game.
The only interesting game.
Yeah. Um, don't really have much to say about this other than it was a close game. It wasn't as high scoring as we expected.
Yeah. And Baker Mayfield made a rare mistake at the end that cost
Yeah.
them the game,
Uh,
which is very unlike him.
which I think he's still the quarterback for Tampa Bay. I don't their record wasn't low enough for them to even be near the lows of the draft, even with them being in the playoffs. I just see it where he's played well enough where I don't think you'd have any question of tossing him. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of people saying fire Todd Bowles, but I
that
don't know.
that
I think it's a year too early.
ever since what was his name retired. Shit, what was
Bruce
it?
Arians?
Yeah, Bruce Arians. Todd Bowles was kind of like he was in the system, so hire him. But after like the first year or two after the honeymoon period, it's kind of always been a like you've heard the rumblings in the fan base and around the NFL of probably time to move on because he's had his issues. Had the issue last year versus the Lions when the Lions had actually misplayed the kneel downs and Tampa Bay still had their timeouts and could have had the chance to get the ball back and do something with it.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the score of that game was, but had the chance to do something with it, and he just kind of let it go. So just one of those things of it also goes into yes, he might have his mistakes, but is there anyone else that you'd think would be better right now in this ecosystem with how competitive it is to get coaches right now? I wouldn't fire him yet. If he fails next year, then I could see the okay, go find somebody else. But getting to the playoffs, winning the division, when halfway through the season it was like we didn't even know if Tampa would even be in the playoffs. You made it. Yes, you lost to Washington, the team you beat week one, but this is a good Washington team. This isn't a game where you hold your hat. It was at least close, unlike
Yeah.
all of these other games. Um, you put in a fight, you won the division. I think you keep going with Todd Bowles for now.
Yeah. Like I said, a year too early. And also, I looked it up a while ago. Bo Nix had 0 interceptions and 0 fumbles in that game. Other than Justin Herbert, the losing teams minus Tampa Bay just had struggles advancing the ball and or sustaining drives. Every single one. I mean, you see passing leaders, um, with Russell Wilson, Jordan Love, and Sam Darnold, despite the losses. But the real key to all those stories is that they could not advance the football or maintain any drives throughout that
Well,
game.
you look at who's the rushing leader because all
Yeah,
these teams were down, and the other team was just okay. We're just going to run the ball and just get out of here. Um,
yeah,
Buffalo's a little bit of a different story just because I feel like Buffalo was making sure they would win that game and it would not be close. Um, because I remember there was a lot of talks last week of that Buffalo game being closer than people expecting. And with Denver even having some saying a chance to actually beat Buffalo, and that Buffalo, quote unquote, pulled the worst pick out of the three. It didn't matter. Buffalo made a statement, but it's going to be an interesting next week of games, but we'll get there
yep.
when we get there.
Go AFC team. Don't care who it is. Or Commanders.
This is fair.
Yep.
And if the Rams and Eagles just want to like cancel the game and just not play it, I'm completely fine with that.
Wait, you said the Eagles and Commanders?
No, I said the Eagles and Rams.
Oh, yeah, I'd like for them both to lose. and for the Lions. Yeah, I mean honestly, like I said, the Commanders need to go to the Super Bowl, or the AFC team needs to beat whoever makes it.
I know it's your division, but I'd be okay with the Lions.
Yeah, a few years ago I would have been too, but nope, not anymore. Also, the Rams have moved up to second on my most hated NFL teams.
I'm sure they're crying in the corner about this news.
No, it used to be Philly, but no, lately, like, I mean, when we lost to Philly last year, it was actually close, but like, they haven't been like as bad. But the Rams, they took out both our like, what is it with the teams taking out our players? Like late in the season, Kirby Joseph took out TJ Hawkinson and Tyler Higbee for us and the Rams. So two major injuries to the same position. And the Rams take out Christian Darrisaw week 8 and Brian O'Neill last week, or yesterday rather, both our tackles. Like, what is it with the it's just crazy. Um anyway, that's just a random stat or whatever. But it is what it is. It was a fun season. JJ McCarthy time.
Well,
So
that'll be all for our wildcard reactions, and we will see you for the divisional round predictions.
yep. Peace.
Okay.
That's right. No skull.
All right. Peace.
JJ, sorry. Go JJ McCarthy. There we go.
Peace.